That was wonderful. Thank you. It's just beautiful.
Oh, good.
And
Thank you.
I could see us doing something together. You know,
I'd be thrilled.
I
I'd be honoured. Yeah.
Well,
I just think
I don't know how we'd organise it.
No,
but we should talk.
It'd be great, because I think the constellation work is incredibly powerful. I love it.
So this is how it's going to work, Liz.
Yeah, this is how I do it.
Wow, I'm very impressed.
Well, I have a couple of groups that run, couple of closed groups that run, and when we locked down, I had to find a way to for everyone to meet. So, and it works. The weird thing is that the technology, I was telling someone earlier, the technology works too. I mean, what I mean when I say the technology works too is sometimes the technology really stops working at significant moments. So am I right in thinking...
Because you've got your screen share on, but I'm going to introduce you still. So so the next of our two lovely speakers. So basically introducing Liz. So Liz is basically one of the most experienced family constellation facilitators in the Southeast region. And I personally have been very curious about family constellations for a long time, and I'm really, really excited to hear more about it and see how it kind of works. So without waffling any further, I'm just going to hand you straight over.
Well, thank you. So I can do some waffling. Welcome, everyone. I never quite know how to describe family constellations, but actually, I just want to say, I think Adrienne did such a wonderful talk just now, and settled us down, gave us a lot of contact with our own physical experience, and also our own experiences of our own well-being, which was just a really wonderful way to start a constellation. The other thing that she did is she in her exploration of chakras and song or voice, she was very much exploring our own, how we exist and how we work and how we function in our personal realm. You know, it was about the I know who I am I can express myself, I want to say something but I can't. So she was talking very much about, for each of us, we were all exploring our own I experiences. As a constellation facilitator, I work systemically. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at each of us and our own experiences in a much wider field. Adrienne, you talked about your experience of your family and your parents and the messages they may have given you, and you then went further and said, and also we get messages from our society and our culture about how we are, and we interact with those. Constellations, well, the word constellation comes from it's a not very good translation of the German word constellation, so we think of it as about star signs, but actually it means relation, a placement in relation to another. So just like the stars in the sky are in a constellation, for each of us, we're in a constellation with our family, we're in a constellation with our work, we're in a constellation with our tribe, whoever that may be, our country and our ancestors. So when you work systemically, it's a different way of working. It's really looking at what the system asks of you or requires of you in order that you can belong in the system. And some of those requirements can really hinder us in where we are and where we want to be in life. And so, for example, growing up a working class girl in the north of England, and deciding to go off and be an artist and a creator and a singer means that you're probably breaking all the rules of belonging as a working class girl. I hope you don't mind me using you as an example, but doing those things are breaking all the rules of what it is to be a working class girl. And so you can end up feeling a little bit confused about who your tribe is. But not only will you feel confused, to step beyond the confines of what it means to belong in your family of origin can leave you feeling a little bit guilty, and sometimes in some ways a little bit lonely. But it's kind of the price of growing up and stepping into your authentic life. I don't know how much sense any of that made to any of you, and if anyone wants to ask questions, please do, because I can go on quite a bit and I might not be making sense. So do please unmute yourself and wave at me if you want to ask any questions. None yet. Okay. The other thing about constellations, another way to look at constellations, people call it transgenerational healing, because when we're working with constellations, welcome Kat, when we're working with constellations, we're working not just with the living and different tribes, but we're also working with the dead. And we're working with what may have impacted our ancestors. There are epigenetic studies that I expect Jelena could probably quote, but I can't because I'm a bit academically lazy. But there are epigenetic studies that demonstrate how the traumas of our grandparents, it can literally change our genes and we become different because of the traumas. And so sometimes we can have memories that belong to our ancestors, to people who came before us. We can even have thoughts or beliefs that don't belong with us. I worked with somebody recently who had this strong belief that they were on their own, and there was nobody there for them. And when you looked at their life, you could see that wasn't the case, but that it was a very, very strong felt sense that they had. And when we set up a constellation, it was very clear that that sense of I'm on my own didn't belong to the person I was working with. It belonged to somebody, to one of the ancestors in their family who really had been very on their own. So that's a bit about constellations. Has anyone got any questions? No. Okay. So a very simple way to describe it is that Bert Hellinger, who is the father of constellations, describes it as a family has a soul. And so if somebody in the family, if a member of the family is excluded from that family, you can't exclude somebody, they belong. So if somebody's been excluded from a generation or two back, then descendants, even if they don't know about that family member, may unconsciously remember them and try to bring them back into their family or try to act out their fate. So it can, it can give a new insight and a new, almost a new chord or a new note to the chord of why you may be holding yourself back in something in your life.
I have a question.
Pardon?
I have a question, if that's okay.
Yes.
And this probably is something, this is all part of what's coming, I imagine. But I guess one of my thoughts is if there's someone in your family where you don't, there's friction, you don't want them, you want to separate from that member of your family. In family constellations, this is quite simplistic, but is the work about trying to resolve that, or is it about trying to find how? So if you're saying that you can't exclude someone from the family, it's not about doing that and being able to find closure with it. It's about, I don't know.
The sentence. So the way that we work in family constellations is we set up, we will talk about an issue, and then we will set up representatives and set up, normally in a face-to-face situation, we would set up like a living map. So if we were to do that, and say you have a very difficult brother, and it was, so I'd say somebody represent you and somebody represent your brother. And the sentence I would give, actually, and then what happens is I give representative sentences to say, and they say them, and it's like testing something. And sometimes they say, oh yes, that really helped, or other times they're like, oh no, that doesn't really feel appropriate. And a sentence that may be a very healing sentence with that difficult person in your family might be, I agree to you just as you are. So it doesn't mean that you are deciding to keep contact with them, and it doesn't mean that you're deciding to have no contact with them. That's really a decision for you. But the sentence that helps is I agree to you just as you are.
Okay, thank you.
Which is a very powerful sentence, and it means that you're letting go of all of your yearnings for that person to be less difficult, less controlling, less abusive, or whatever it is that they are. You're letting go of all of that, and you're just agreeing to them as the difficult, abusive, controlling, whatever person.
It's acceptance.
Yes, yeah, it is acceptance. I did a piece of work recently where somebody had to agree to an incredibly horrible person, and when they agreed to that person to be as they were, something really softened in the person who was agreed to. So, and you could just see it just gave a little minute bit of space change. And the struggle for me then is, because we touched on politics earlier. So a struggle for me is thinking, can I agree to Donald Trump just as he is? And yeah. And when we finish the constellation, remind me about that, because I found something today that made it maybe possible for me to agree to him as he is. So at the very end, ask me about that and I'll tell you.
Actually, I have to say, I applied a very similar approach to another politician a couple of months ago. Suddenly I realized, well, actually, I should be, well, not exactly praying, because I'm not necessarily religious, as I said, but yeah, I thought I should be actually rooting for him rather than going against him.
Oh,
because
yes.
all of these things that he's doing, he's essentially doing them from a place of insecurity, like deep, deep insecurity. So if I actually spiritually support him, he will feel more stable and have less of the need to actually do all the awful things he's doing, which he's doing from this place of insecurity. So I know it's a bit bizarre thought, and not many people kind of understood what I meant, but this is exactly what you're saying. It's all about accepting, because when you don't resist, maybe that then, well, in the case of your family member, then that you interact with them, and that can sort of weaken their negativity. But in this situation, obviously I don't interact with this person in any physical way, but I thought maybe spiritually I can, if all of us as a community are sending these positive thoughts, that might actually soften that person. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's one, though in fact, agreeing to somebody is not even praying that they'll change. And yes, but so I have a really, really wacky thought to share with you, but I would prefer to do a constellation first. So I take you on a constellation journey and you become a little bit more systemic in your outlook, and then maybe this totally wacky thing that I came to the conclusion of earlier today might make a little more sense, if that's all right with you all. So the best thing we can do is do a constellation. I don't know how much time we have.
You've got...
Well done, Stephanie.
I think about, hang on, is it 45 minutes?
You're
probably about 40, 45 minutes.
Okay. So have we switched off Facebook Live yet?
Right.
Not yet.
So do you want to say a bit about what's going to happen, Liz?
Okay, so what we will do now is, because so I always say this, so there are 2 or 3 things. What's really important in a constellation is that we all bring as much of ourselves as we can to the room, and we will be working with, what feeds a constellation is the desire that we have to create change in our lives and to create a shift. So if you're a bit ambivalent, it doesn't really give the energy for constellation. And if you say something like, well, I'm just a bit curious about why blah, 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 you won't get much all the energy can go out of the constellation. So what really feeds it is a real energy for change. And partly you need that energy for change, because I do push people into making very, very challenging promises and statements that they would really far rather not say, but might be a deep truth in their heart. So in order to do this, and also because of the rules of belonging, and everyone belongs in a family, we may have family members who have done really appalling things, and we still have to include them. So because of those rules, and because of where the sensitivity and the fragility of what we may be working with, I do ask that we all hold what happens in this space with confidentiality. So if we talk about what happened this evening, we do so in a way that doesn't identify other people in this space, which is why we will turn off Facebook Live shortly. So, but for the people that are here for the demonstration, can I just see a show of hands? Don't quite know how we'll do that from Kat, that we agree to confidentiality. Perhaps Kat could unmute herself and just let us know. Or perhaps Kat isn't even there. So thank you everyone for that. The other thing, which I think is probably less needed to stress here, is that, well, two things. When you're asked to represent, first of all, you don't have to represent if you don't want to. But if you do represent, what I ask of you is that you just touch in with your, as much as you can, with your true experience, and feed back to me as truthfully as you can what you're experiencing. And you might experience something that's very unacceptable. You might experience boredom, which you might be hard to say to me, I'm really bored, because, we're all being brought up to be nice, polite people. So we don't say things like I'm bored, or I'm irritated, or you might find that you feel rageful, or you might feel you suddenly desperately fancy somebody, which you wouldn't normally fancy during day-to-day life. But whatever your experience is, the more honestly you can feed back to me your experience, the better. And then I'll give you sentences to say. And again, I would ask of you that you try saying the sentence, and you let me know if it impacts you or not, and let me know how it impacts you. I think that's probably enough to be said for now. Oh, good, Susie's back. Welcome back, Susie. You're muted, so I don't know what you're saying, but I just got to say the most important thing, which is, can I just see that you agree to confidentiality? Great, thank you. So I'm very happy if you could unmute everybody. Sussex Wellbeing or Lauren. And I think now.
It's telling. Sorry, it's saying to, it's only giving me the option to mute. So just I'm going to have to do it individually. Bear with me.
Okay, thank you. And Yelena, can you turn off the Facebook Live, please?
Yes. Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye, Facebook. Thanks for joining us. But if you want to come and join us, please do. Is it too late?
To close the unit, but thank you so much everyone for being, I was the observer in all of that, and I found that really moving, and to everyone for being so vulnerable and open with their feelings. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with me as well.
I would say it's a pleasure. It wasn't, but it was a very important process. my pleasure. I'm British, and I would say that would be a lie.
You could say it was fucking horrible, but
it was really important.
It was cathartic.
Yeah, sure was.
That's what Constellation are. They just make things move on, don't they?
Yeah, they're wonderful. It's amazing healing too. It's just incredible. Yeah.
So just before we go, just to let you know, obviously you've got your program. If you do want to I think Adrienne's got an offer in there for her her voice, Unleash Your Voice work.
Yeah, 1-to-1.
Yeah, so 25% off, I think it is it? It's normally 60 down to 40 or something, I think. I might actually be doing that, so I might get in touch.
I didn't put in an offer because I'm doing I'm now doing an online constellation every Wednesday evening, and it's 90 minutes and it's £15. So didn't really think I could offer any less than that. So yeah, so please join and send friends.
Okay.
After that experience.
Yeah, you can have the whole experience.
It's great
How
fun.
Yelena introduces it, isn't it, Yelena?
It's great. Obviously, if you do want to, you know, Adrienne and Liz's details are also on the StressBusters site and everything. So if anybody does want to get in touch with them, you can find them that way. And is there anything that I've missed? I don't think so. Our kind of talks are kind of, we're on a bit of a break now until September. So the next StressBuster talk will be September. But yeah, just if you're not on the newsletter, sign up to that so you can just make sure you're up to date and you know when the next one is. And is there anything else I've left off, Yelena, that I should be saying right now? I think that's everything, isn't it?
In the chat box, people can see the link for the newsletter subscription, or if you want, you can just leave your email in the well, either send it privately to Lauren or to me, or also there is a donation link as well, so you can buy us a coffee or 2 or 3. So that's also in the group chat. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, and I can't believe how moving. I mean, I could not quite imagine how Family Constellations would work.
No, me neither.
The arrows, because I'm a huge fan otherwise, but yeah, I was quite skeptical. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
it is moving. Yeah.
Who knew? Few arrows.
Amazing, isn't it?
Incredible. Yeah.
Can I just say, I really like the fact that on the chat box it says Hove StressBusters newsletter from Adrienne's father to everyone.
Does it? I can't find my chat box. Oh God, technology. What does it say? I can't find it, love.
Just because everybody got renamed when Yelena
I
said something.
see. Oh, he would like that, so no doubt.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
a particularly good night tonight, I thought.
It really
so,
was
yeah,
amazing. Thank you.
Looking forward to the next one.
Take care.
Absolutely.
Right, take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, you've gone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.